I have a quote. I want you to guess from who it is.
Okay.
Logic can explain things after they happen, but they cannot explain things as they happen. Who do you think said that?
I mean, definitely not Hegel because
You did last episode.
Hmm?
You said this last episode.
I said this.
Yeah. I have it written down. Ahmed Hussein, 2021.
I now have quotes.
Yeah, man, of course. What do you think of that statement? Do you still stand by it?
Can you repeat the statement, please?
Logic can explain things after they happen, but cannot explain things as they happen.
Well, that's really deep. I never knew I could be that deep. I mean, I'm confused now. I don't know. I mean, in what context did I say that?
I think I remember when you said this. We were talking near the end of the last episode. Mm-hmm. You were saying that we cannot always be logical. I think that was one of your points. Well,
yeah.
And that's when you said this. Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting because it's scary, right? It means history is the only answer we have. And we cannot predict anything because there are always new variables. But doesn't that mean we have to learn how to generalize? If things are going to happen, if we can see a pattern happening similar to something we've seen before, that we can explain it because it happened before and it's done, it's complete.
Well, one way I would understand that is that logic is the study of abstract things. It's independent of time. By definition, logic cannot comprehend time or is incompatible with time. That's what I would say. So logic can explain things after they happen because after they have happened, they become merely facts. I mean, Badiou beautifully talks about events. He considers a century is not 100 years. It's like a jump from one stage to another in history. So, for example, there's a new century. There's a new century when Einstein discovered relativity. That's a new century, and so on. So, for him, the concept of time is not something that flows continuously in some kind of way, but it is related to the event. It's related to the event that happens. At least, I mean, that's what I understand from what I read.
So you don't see the value in the patterns?
I do not see a value in the patterns.
Really?
Yep.
But is there any more effective way we can use, a method that we can use that is more effective than generalizing when it comes to trying to have a good guess of what could happen if this happened and that happened, which is similar to a previous pattern? Do you have any more effective techniques other than generalization? I
mean, we could use so generalization is some form of induction, at least that's the way I would understand it mathematically. So you would go from certain instances of things to say, well, if this and this happened and we got this pattern will continue, and that will happen. We could also do deduction. Deduction is when you have certain premises, you have certain rules of inference, and you go from these premises to the conclusions. We can do some form of deduction in terms of studying events, because we could say, like, in the past this and this happened, and therefore that happened. We could say in the future, if this and this will happen, then therefore that will happen. So we can do some form of deduction, for example.
So isn't that the same thing as generalizing, as looking at the patterns previous? This example you just gave.
No, what I'm saying is you could say, like, if in the past certain things led to certain things, we are not generalizing in saying that in the future, if certain things happen, then these certain things will happen. So generalizing is something like water boiled at 100 degrees in Lebanon, therefore it will boil on 100 degrees in Canada. That's generalization the way I would understand it. Induction is something like do you know that kind of when you stack dominoes in a row, form a pattern, the pattern is such that if any one piece of the dominoes falls, then the one after it will fall.
Okay.
So it's not enough to know that if one piece will fall, then the other will fall. There are two conditions to make an inductive proof. So the first condition would be to prove that if the property is true of a certain stage, then it will be true of the stage after it. That's the first condition. The second condition is that it should be true of the first term in the sequence of events. So I should know that if a certain piece falls, then the one after it should fall, and I should know that the first one has fallen. If I don't know that the first one has fallen, I cannot know that the 50th one has fallen.